Right now, though, he was a disaster for San Francisco as their district attorney. He was a disaster for the state of California as our attorney general. And now he wants to be, well, a disaster for Los Angeles County as district attorney. Maybe he should get a real job. Of course, we're talking about George Gascon, and Rob Harris joins us right now. He's the director of the Los Angeles Police Protective League. And Rob, I mean, you can't hear any commentary or any speech from George Gascon without him talking about how he was a cop for the LAPD. So this really says something that you guys are actively campaigning against him.
Yeah, he is not somebody that we are proud of. And I think in your opening where you talked about his failures in San Francisco is an excellent thing to highlight. Look, if you're going to be the district attorney of Los Angeles County, then you should be impartial and you should have integrity. And the problem with Gascon is that he's just a con man. And he's a proven liar who put policies in place in San Francisco that left it in shambles. And we think Los Angeles deserves somebody better than that.
So, and by the way, I misspoke saying that he was the California Attorney General. God forbid. But he is making his way across the map of the Golden State, and certainly that's in his sights. Talk to me a little bit about his record in San Francisco so that all Angelenos know exactly what we have in store for ourselves should this guy win.
Yeah, well, he's being touted as a reformer, which just absolutely isn't true. They're trying to do an extreme makeover edition on him, and they're ignoring what he did in San Francisco. And I mean, his policies in San Francisco basically rolled out the red carpet for criminals. He created thousands more victims up there, and he left it in shambles. You've got open-air drug markets up there. You've got streets riddled with needles. You've got skyrocketing crime, and all that happened under his watch. And then what did he do? He loaded the U-Haul in the middle of the night and came down here to Los Angeles and is, kind of hoping that he can remake his image, and it's just not going to happen.
I think his original sin in San Francisco, beyond what he did to that county in particular, was sponsoring and supporting Prop 47, the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. I mean, since Prop 47, have neighborhoods and schools gotten safer, Rob?
No, absolutely not. In fact, he is the exact opposite of having the Midas touch. Everything he touches seems to just disintegrate. And so the policies that he left up in Sacramento, and then Prop 47 in particular statewide, has just been a massive failure. And like we said, we don't want him down here in Los Angeles to try and do the same thing that he did up in San Francisco. And you were right when you talked about his eyes being set on the AG's office. And that's why we're supporting Jackie Lacey, because we want a fair-minded prosecutor who's focused on keeping our communities in the county safe instead of building their next career move.
We're speaking with Rob Harris. He's the director of the Los Angeles Police Protective League. And, oftentimes when you just sort of keep doing the same thing over and over again, even when you get terrible, horrible, duplicative results, that's called insanity, Rob. And honestly, voting for Gascon right now and getting him in here as district attorney in Los Angeles, it's actually worse than that. If we think things are bad, he actually will make things even worse, won't he?
Absolutely. And, he's using those keywords, words that sometimes resonate with some members of our community, words like, justice reform and stuff. But instead of focusing on the words, let's focus on what he's actually accomplished. What's his record? What can we point to? And those are easy things to point to. You just need to look to San Francisco and see their skyrocketing crime and, their open-air drug markets. And, Jackie Lacey, she's done a great job tackling some of the issues that are important in our communities, like creating the task force for mental health, creating the sex trafficking unit that focused on prosecuting people that, exploited women and children. So he doesn't have that kind of record. And, as public safety professionals, no, quite the opposite. Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, Rob, I mean, he keeps talking about how he was a cop. He was an LAPD cop. I mean, obviously, with you guys, the Los Angeles Police Protective League coming out for his opponent, that's a direct rejection of him, flashing his badge and saying, yeah, I've got street cred. But talk a little bit about how his policies actually undermine what the police are trying to do here. It's the opposite of protect and serve.
Well, you're absolutely right. And look, just because you wore an LAPD uniform does not mean that you have street cred. And now he can't hide behind stars. He carried his mentality of making fake crime stats here as a command staff member. He took that to San Francisco and was proven to be faking crime stats there. But look, Prop 47 is a huge one, right? And when you start to reclassify crimes from felonies to misdemeanors, and you don't pave a way for people to get treatment related to drug crimes and stuff, you end up having what you're seeing in San Francisco and what you're seeing here in Los Angeles with a high homeless population. That's directly attributed to him and Prop 47.
There's also a degrading effect of a public official who wants to be the district attorney for the county of Los Angeles. And again, and you ask any school kid who's got a basic civics education, even in our public schools, Rob, and you say, what does the district attorney do? Well, the district attorney enforces the law. They prosecute the law. Anyone who's seen Law and Order, right? Yeah, the cops arrest the person, and then the district attorney tries the case and puts them in jail. When he talks about criminal justice reform, George Gascon is really talking about ignoring laws. He's willfully talking about the fact that, we will ignore this law. Cops arrest this guy, we won't press charges. I mean, talk about the degrading effect that has on the rank and file.
Well, you're absolutely right. And isn't it ironic that we have Jackie Lacey, who has actually prosecuted cases, and then you've got George Gascon, who I think he would have a tough time even figuring out which side of the courtroom to sit on. He's never actually prosecuted a case. And so you're absolutely right. The morale of officers, look, every officer starts their shift wanting to make a positive impact in their communities, and we do that by enforcing laws. And once we make lawful arrests, we then are trusting that the district attorneys will then be able to file and prosecute those cases where necessary. When you have somebody like George Gascon, who's a con man and wants to ignore that and wants to fudge crime stats, it's just demoralizing to the officers and has a huge safety impact for our communities.
And by the way, let's just be clear here. This isn't a party thing. And sometimes what we talk about here on the program when it comes to politics, it has to do with political party. Jackie Lacey is a Democrat. This has nothing to do with partisan politics. It has to do with making a choice between two candidates, and one of them is so superior to the other. And that's important to point out here, that this isn't about party politics and right versus left or blue versus red or whatever, Rob, right?
No, you're absolutely right. And it's why Jackie has support from prominent Democrats. She has support from Republicans, public safety supports her. This is not a partisan issue. This is a public safety issue. And what path do we want to continue to go down? Do we want a fair and impartial DA like we currently have, or do we want to go down the road of San Francisco? I don't think anybody in their right mind can point to San Francisco and say, yes, that's what we want Los Angeles County to be like.
That said, Rob Harrison, listen, you would forgive your typical Angelino from responding right now, probably sitting in the freeway in traffic, talking back to the radio, saying, listen, things aren't that great in Los Angeles right now. Maybe it is time for a change. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that Jackie Lacey would love to be able to enact to make things better, to start getting tough on the open crime that we see on the sidewalks? Much of it, by the way, the fault of George Gascon and Prop 47. She's doing her best in trying to do something to right the wrongs that we are inheriting here.
Yeah, I think a good thing to point to is things she's already enacted and wants to build upon, and one is her mental health unit. I think everybody in Los Angeles County recognizes that we have a crisis when it comes to individuals who suffer from mental health issues and being able to get them the support and help that they need. And then human trafficking, the sex trafficking, it's something that I think all Angelinos recognize is something that needs to be addressed. She created the sex trafficking unit, so she wants to continue to build upon that. And again, and I don't, I'll just keep beating this drum. No matter how bad you think Los Angeles is, or what improvements you think the county can enact, just look to San Francisco and ask yourself, if you want open air drug markets, if you want sidewalks filled with needles, if you want skyrocketing crime, if that's the direction you want to go, that's what you're going to get with the con man, George Gascon.
All right. How do you guys see this race shaping up in terms of, cops are kind of inhibited from being able to be full-throated politically one way or the other. Is your outfit, Los Angeles Police Protective League, is this sort of the avenue that cops have to be able to exercise their political will and their political opinions?
Absolutely, yeah. I get the privilege of listening to the frustrations of our rank and file officers and then being the voice for them, and their apprehensions and their frustrations with somebody like George Gascon coming down and trying to run for district attorney is something that's being talked about throughout all of our divisions. And so I get the opportunity to voice their concerns, and it's a real concern. It's a big county. There's a lot of voters that we need to try and educate about Gascon's failed policies and, his lying about his crime stats and stuff. So, it's a tough challenge, but we're up for it.
All right. Well, listen, we are going to leave it there for now, but we are proud that a whole lot of, I hear a lot on social media and in emails from cops who listen to the program and feel like they can't call in. They don't want to give their names and stuff like that. If you want to voice your opinion on this race right now as well and what you think life would be like under George Gascon as your DA, give us a call, 800-222-5222. You don't have to give your real name. Don't worry about it. You know how this works. It's talk radio. Just give us a name, 800-222-KABC. Do you agree that George Gascon would make matters even worse? Love to hear from you. Rob Harris, thanks for joining us as always, sir.